Trump having more cognitive issues in public, the people versus the oligarchy, countries preparing to go forward without the United States, and backlash from Trump voters. Let's look into that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. So I had an image that just was like one of these loopy images that sometimes happens when I meditate. And it was Trump in a MAGA hat speaking not in, I it didn't seem like there was a podium in front of him, just speaking kind of maybe plain side beside a helicopter, taking questions from the media, and there was some sort of cognitive slip, and it's like this clip went viral on social media. I don't know that it got that I didn't see it being played on regular media because I don't think regular media really exists, unfortunately, in our country at this time. Um, so that's one thing I want to look into. The other thing I want to look into is how do we, the people, stand up to the oligarchy like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and others. And so when I was meditating and I was asking this question, I kept seeing the Blue Sky app. I don't know if you guys use Blue Sky, but I've been using Blue Sky and it's a pretty friendly place. I've certainly had no uh, negative comments thrown at me on Blue Sky for the most part. Um, and it's also kind of a good place to find some independent news sourcing. But I saw that, and I also just saw images of like student aged people like laughing at the idea of Facebook and laughing at the idea of Twitter as if it's irrelevant. Now, whether that's going to come to pass soon or if in 5 years they'll be irrelevant, we'll have to see. And then I also saw, in the news, Colombia refused to let a military plane land that had uh, migrants from Colombia on board because the president said that was not a humane way to treat, the president of Colombia said that was not a humane way to treat people, which I completely agree with. And now, the US has imposed tariffs, Colombia's imposed tariffs back. Um, so one thing I think we should look into is our country's prepared to no longer trade with the United States. Um, And then also, what kind of backlash will this cause uh, the Trump voter? In particular, Colombia is one of the bigger buyers of U.S. grain and U.S. beef. And those places heavily supported Donald Trump during the election. So, will there be any backlash to that? So, I think we should start with how do we stand up against the oligarchy? So, how do we stand up against the oligarchy? Um, yeah, I just see you did the cancel membership button. Um, or are you sure you want to delete your account? Those kind of images are coming to me now. I think there'll be a drop off in the number of people that use um, Facebook. Now, Twitter, I think, is already a kind of a dead platform, so to speak. I don't think it's really gaining many new users. And if they are, they're, probably not paying for the check mark. I think Elon Musk's actually going to have a lot of problems with Twitter. We'll wait for another reading on that, but I think he's going to face some serious legal issues in Europe over Twitter, and Zuckerberg might too. So how do we as the people fight against the oligarchy? Meaning, how do we keep the oligarchy in check so that they're not too powerful? How do we, the people, Fight against the oligarchy. So I'm seeing the image of the devil card. And I think that's a fear. I think we fear that the Facebooks and the Twitters are being used as propaganda to spread mis and disinformation and the TikToks too, although I think it's still a little uncertain what's going to happen with that in the country. So let's see what the cards say. How do we stand up against the oligarchy? Well, we come together. We get the three cups. We come together, circles of support and celebration. We find other ways to communicate, whether this is using different social media apps like Blue Sky, or whether it's going back to old-fashioned ways of creating group chats, um, things like that. The challenge is there's a lot of things under the surface. And what I'm getting from the moon is the challenge here is we're not quite sure ourselves on how we can proceed, maintain the ability to communicate with our big groups of people that we talk to without the Facebook, and in particular, Facebook is what I'm getting. We like to share pictures of children, grandchildren, so on and so forth. How do we do that? Um, and not be subjected to the propaganda? Or do we just find ways to avoid the propaganda on these apps? That's harder to do. But eventually we're gonna walk away from it because it doesn't serve us anymore. Data cuts. The Facebooks, the Twitter, social media, I think just in general, doesn't serve us anymore. So I'm getting the message that we know too much. Know too much. Okay. So it's like when we're on social media, sometimes people that we've considered friends for a long time, we learn too much about them. Maybe we learn about their political views. Maybe we learn that they're homophobic and transphobic and anti-Islam. Maybe we learn these things and it really no longer serves us. Some relationships are meant to not be that deep. And therefore it creates this like tension in our lives of, do I want this person really as a part of my life? When in reality, if the relationship was surface deep, um, it could be a beneficial mutual relationship. But if it goes deeper than that, then it's not beneficial anymore. That's what I'm hearing. Um, in the past, we had the Four of Pentacles. This is stability. I think, you know, t- I remember times before Facebook. I'm that old. Um, Before MySpace, which was before Facebook or before Facebook. Um, it's almost like life felt more stable then. But that's in the past. The stability's in the past. The ability to get a mass amount of information now very quickly exists, and that has taken our stability away. We do get the Knight of Wands in the sky. So this is a fiery message coming forward. It's also could be celebrations. That's the way I interpret it in this deck. So I think something new is going to come forward. In the near term outcome, we get the Wheel of Fortune. The question is whether the fortune is going to turn in our favor or turn against us. Will the oligarchy gain more power or will the oligarchy have less power? We get Eight of Swords. I think eventually there are going to be laws passed, and this might not be in the United States right away, but in other places such as Europe, where there already have been some pretty good laws passed that limit the reach of some of these social media platforms, also limits exactly what they're allowed to have on their platforms. So the Eight of Swords is about confinement. It's about containing the reach and how much influence these things have. And we need to do that because it's too much of a burden to sort through what's true and what's not true. And, those of us in the United States, we went through an election cycle and it was like a constant bombardment of hearing things that weren't true. Kamala Harris has a drinking problem. I'm pretty sure that's not true. Kamala Harris supports genocide. I know that's not true. But all these things were coming out, and it was like such a burden to fight back against them. And it was like we couldn't have a conversation because, oh, I read this. Oh, I've heard this. They're taking over the apartments in Aurora, Colorado, right? They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs in Springfield, Ohio. It was too much of a burden to put, all of those lies and statements uh, to sleep, to kind of say, no, that's not really what's going on. And I don't know that the burden should lie with the average voter. The burden should lie with the oligarchy itself on making sure that these things aren't getting out there that aren't true. The hopes and the fears is apathy. This is a fear. The fear is that there's just not the energy or the palatability to move forward with challenging them. That people are just complacent and that they will continue to use these apps um, without thinking about the propaganda that they're absorbing. Um, that is certainly the. But in the outcome, we get the Ace of Pentacles. This is a new start. It's a new start financially um, as well. So it might be a new way of the way we look at money and politics and money and communications. It might just be a new outlook. That's more what I'm hearing. We get the Eight of Pentacles. It's going to be hard work, though. It's going to take a generation to explain to the younger generations that, or the younger generations explaining it to the older generations. It could work both ways of just how much propaganda's out there, you know. And we get strength. So the people are going to be able to fight back up against the oligarchy. They have the strength. It's going to take hard work, and that will lead to a financial new beginning by constraining their reach. And how do we do that? We do it with circles of support. So I think it's a very positive feeling. Um, Underneath, we have the Queen of Pentacles. We have the Six of Pentacles too. This is about giving, receiving, repaying loans, repaying debts, maybe foreign influence. It's just kind of confirmation that that's what we're reading about. And right now, we're at a crossroads. And this is what I was talking about. It's going to take intergenerational discussions to kind of put their propaganda at bay. And here's the card for the Democrats, along with the truth. So I think it's going to take some effort, but I think there are ways to lessen the influence of the oligarchy without how to say without worrying about how much money they have, because we're not going to be able to they're not suddenly going to have less money. That's not going to happen. Okay. Our country's prepared to move forward without the United States. Let's look at that next, and then we'll talk about the evil one, so to speak. Um, so, will countries stand up to the United States and just say, we're not going to trade with you anymore? Or will countries stand up to the United States over the immigration deportation issue? Will countries stand up using their financial power against the United States because of the US's immigration policies? Will countries stand up to the United States financially? So yeah, I'm seeing the Made in China sticker and then the Made in America sticker. And the person's choosing the Made in China sticker. I don't think this is in the US though. Um, so let's see what the cards say. So they're going to have to defend themselves to their people and explain to their citizenry why it is important to stand up to the United States. Um, the challenge is the wheel of fortune because they don't really know how it's going to go. I mean, the US has had such global influence for the last 70, 80 years, maybe even more, um, that other countries can't really foresee how it would proceed if they're not involved with US relationships. But the seeds have been planted. They have been thinking about plans of what to do if the election went the way that it went. They're not thrown off guard. They were hoping it didn't go that way. This is wish fulfillment. It's in the past. It didn't happen. Um, and now we're in this new thing. In the sky, we have the chariot. This is movement forward. It's sometimes chaotic, it's sometimes bumpy, but they're going to move forward without the United States if necessary. In the near term outcome, we have the emperor. This could be abuse of power, which I think we're seeing currently here in the United States from our leaders, not just the president, but others saying things that are just outrageous. Um, it's also the card for the presidency. So the near term outcome is movement away from him. Um, we do get the Empress card. This is interesting. This is my card for Russia. It also could be a family card, mother's mother. That's why I think Russia, Mother Russia, right? Um, will maybe trade relationship with Russia get restored? You know, Trump getting rid of some of the sanctions to try to lessen the burden that the U.S. citizenry are going to feel from his um, catastrophic policies, because ultimately these policies are going to leave us out in the cold if you're a citizen of the United States. I think we're going to feel some financial pain, unfortunately. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I said that in my 2025 predictions. The hope and the fears, the Ten of Swords. I'm sorry, the Ten of Swords is in the hopes and fears position. This is interesting. I think this is a hope. And I think the hope is that the current administration just experiences downfall, like complete failure, either failure to enact these tariffs or a failure as an administration to where the voters just say, we don't want this anymore. And basically, we just have a bare bones functioning government that's not doing anything, which is kind of what I've been seeing and why I've said, not to it also could symbolize, the end of a very dark cycle and that the person in charge is no longer in charge. Um, we're waiting for our ship to come in. Right now, we're in a period of waiting. We don't know what's going to happen. And notice the ships in the background. So this card sometimes, relates to foreign trade, which is exactly what we're really reading on. We are going to get a fiery message with regards to this. And eventually, the truth is going to come out about why exactly he's doing what he's doing. It doesn't really make sense financially. Economists have said it's probably not going to work. So, what's the true motivation? When that comes out, I think that'll really change the way we think. We get the Hermit card underneath. This is the US. We're feel isolated. We're going to feel alone. We're going to feel blinded. And we're going to have to make a choice. We get the Hanged Man. This is about pausing and suspension. So hopefully there'll be a point where people step back that are in charge and say, hey, this really isn't working for us. We're going to have to try something else. Okay, so does this lead to some backlash? So I had an image. of um, it was like three men in probably their late 50s, early 60s, standing by a combine, which is used to harvest corn and wheat. And, it was very clear they were distressed. It felt like they were discussing money matters. And if you've ever lived in the part of country that's very agricultural, it's very sensitive to commodity price changes. It can be the difference between farmers going bankrupt or having a good year or just barely getting by, which is, I think, most of the case for the small farms. That's almost considered a good year at this point because of some of the policies the current administration enacted the last time they were in charge. But will there be backlash against the administration from voters that voted for it? Yeah, I've just seen these big fields of wheat, um, corn, and big pastures full of cattle. And it doesn't feel like people are happy, financially happy. The best way to make somebody angry is to ruin their financial stability, right? That's the best way to lose a voter. Um, so will there be backlash against Trump from Trump voters? Uh, let's say this year, could be towards the later part of the year when crops are being sold. Will there be backlash against Trump from Trump voters? Yeah, I'm seeing the Five of Cups. It's about loss. It's their loss, not him losing anything. But I'm also seeing the Ten of Pentacles, which is about inheritance and leaving what they have to the next generation and worrying about whether they'll be able to maintain and keep. Yeah. I see the Six of Pentacles too, which is about giving and receiving of money, loans, and debts, which I think most farms operate on a we're going to borrow money and then pay it back at the end of the year. And then hopefully there's some left over, which is our profit. Backlash. Yeah, it's like a feeling of just, I'm not going to say the word, but I hear it, it's F me. Like, as in, like, we really messed up with this choice. Huh. Let's see what the cards have to say. Yeah, I mean, they feel cheated, right? They're going to feel cheated. They might not feel cheated right now, but they're going to feel cheated. It's like Trump took their votes, walked away, had no intentions of ever doing anything good for them, and they're going to realize it. It might take some time. Um, the challenge is trying to figure out a way to move away from these troubled times. Like, how do they proceed forward, keep their financial stability, keep the farms in the family? Um, and I don't think it's just going to be farmers, right? It's going to be people that are in those agricultural centers that are directly affected by everything, any like sort of change in commodity prices. Also, grocery prices too, might be affected. The hope was that they were going to get a new beginning when they decided to support him. That's in the subconscious. And now in the past, we have the hangman, which is pausing and suspension. I think they're rethinking their choice. I think they started to rethink their choice even before the inauguration, right? I think it was already starting to be questionable. Here's the truth is out there now. They know that He's doing things to just do them. Why are we having a trade war with Colombia? I mean, so we can pay higher prices for coffee and they're not going to buy our grain. Doesn't really, they're going to pay a lot less for our grain because, they're not going to pay the tariff on top of it. They're going to take that money from the people that are growing the grain. The truth is here. It's coming out. Um, Again, the near term outcome, I think it's the second time we've got this in this position is the Wheel of Fortune. Will the fates turn in favor of the people or against them? And here's the Five of Cups I was seeing. It's exactly the feeling that I was getting. It's like, you're clenching your shoulders or your elbows and like grieving, right? It's a feeling of grief, of loss. Now, there is hope also in this card too. There are two cups in the background that um, haven't been tipped over yet, but you have to turn around to see them. But I don't think that that's what this card is about. I think this card is just about loss. I think they feel lied to, right? They feel like things were stolen from them. Or they're going to feel that. Yeah, because they're left out in the cold. I mean, this is financial insecurity, this is poverty, this is uh, could represent all of those things associated with poverty, homelessness, losing everything you own. Um, yeah, it's not good. Uh, the hope is that there's going to be a message about money coming forward, like help from the government. But And there might, farmers are usually the first to get help from the government. And I say that as somebody that grew up around that. Um, like when fires burn pasture lands, usually the government steps in and helps the people. But not always, right? I mean, if FEMA's gone, will there be any hope that if he destroys farms because of his trade policies, that they'll get any help. I think I think the people affected by it, they're hard at work. They're trying to figure out other solutions and how to manage things, but it's too much. It's too much too quickly, and it's only been a week. It's not even been a week. This is Sunday that I'm recording this. Be a week on Monday at noon. And it's already too much. It's just overwhelming the amount of news coming in. And what's it all about? It's all about wanting financial security and not having it. The hope is that we have some moderation, that maybe we can form some new partnerships, that the Sun card will illuminate why this is going on, that justice will be served. That's the fourth arcana in a row. And then the Star card, protection, but there's going to be a lot of fighting and defending. This is from the administration, a lot of defending oneself, trying to defend these policies. When in reality, whether there are undocumented people in Chicago has no bearing on your life when you can't afford to pay the bills at the end of the year. And that I think is going to be the realization of a lot of people that supported him. Okay, back to the video. So I had an image of this video that seems to go viral on social media platforms, and it's like, see if you can kind of pull it back up. Yeah, so Trump's in a MAGA hat, standing next to either a plane or a helicopter, and it's like reporters are yelling questions, and it's like he's halfway through an answer and he stops and can't remember what he was talking about. It feels like one of these like almost, do you remember the Mitch McConnell pausing videos where, he just lost his train of thought and didn't move for 30 seconds? it it looks something similar to that, not exactly like that, but something similar to that. And before that, I can see his lips moving, and it's like the lips aren't moving, but words are coming out through the throat, really mumbled. So it sounds kind of like that, like really mumbled and slurred. So, so let's just ask that question. Will there be more signs in the near future of Trump having cognitive issues? Will there be more signs in the near future of Trump having cognitive issues? I've seen the Five of Swords. This was the card that Rosalind Carter used to describe dementia in the Carter reading that I did. See the Five of Swords, and yeah, it's a feeling. It's like, you know, my shoulders feel heavy, if that makes sense. It's like it's hard to stand up straight. I feel like I am falling forward almost. Like I can't push my shoulders back. I don't know what that means, but maybe somebody else knows what that means. I don't know. Um, so will there be more questions about Trump's cognitive health in the near future, or episodes? Episodes or questions? Yeah, I think so. It feels in like an inevitability. Well, we get the Hierophant. This is the courts, the government. So it's kind of just confirmation that the cards are telling us what we want to know about. I mean, every time, right? If you followed this channel, it seems every time anything Trump or Trump adjacent, it's the Ten of Swords, which is the complete and utter downfall, the Death card, or the Four of Swords, which is the minor arcana equivalent of the Death card. Um, and here's that Ten of Pentacles. This is about inheritance, the end of a cycle. We have the Empress, but it's in the past. He's no longer receiving. I think his relationship with Russia goes downhill. Uh, the Nine of Pentacles is about financial security in the sky. It's also could be about, having good health. The near-term outcome is the Ace of Pentacles, which is a new beginning. But I think the question needs to be a new beginning for who? Or is it a new way of looking at him? That's what it feels like. It feels like it's a new way of looking at him and looking at him through the lens of him being ill. And not just the people that watch this channel and the people like us, but people in media, the magician. This is some dark power. They're trying to manifest and hide it. I've always felt like they're trying to hide it, but eventually it's too much. The Ten of Wands, this is huge burdens to carry. It's too much to keep in. And I don't think that's just him carrying the burdens. I think it's the people around him. It's going to be too hard to kind of not answer questions after a while. Um, we have the Five of Pentacles. This is about, it could be loss of money, being left out in the cold. But since we're talking about health, it could be the loss of health as well. And the outcome is the Queen of Cups, which is steady leadership coming forward, isolation, feeling alone, and full illumination. We're going to get the truth soon. It almost feels like he's a shadow. He becomes at some point in the near future, that could be a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year. It almost feels like he might still be president, but he's not the one making the decisions. Like nobody really trusts him to make the decisions. Um, But we have things moving forward. We have the Lost card again, the Five of Cups, and we have the Ace of Wands, which is a new beginning. Um, so yeah. Well, thank everyone. I thank everybody that supports the channel. Please like, share, comment. I did turn comments off on the last video because people were leaving the most outrageous comments towards people in this community, which I'm not going to stand for. So if you make a crazy comment, I'm just going to block you. So if you made it through this video, I probably should have said at the beginning, chances are doesn't apply to you. So anyhow, I appreciate everybody that supports the channel. I'll be back with another video soon. Thank you.